Wow, it's so cool to have you back. In the name of God, who is love, beloved, and love overflowing. Amen. In 1984, oh my gosh, I'm old, the rock group Foreigner came out with a song, and the chorus is, I want to know what love is. I want you to show me. I want to feel what love is. I know you can show me. Only a baby boomer would begin a sermon with a rock and roll tune from the 80s. But all that aside, it's true. I've been thinking about today's gospel reading all week long because it's hard. It's a tough reading, isn't it? So, in our gospel passage this morning, we hear Jesus saying, love your enemies, do good to those who hate you, bless those who curse you, pray for those who abuse you. And I am sure that every one of us has a picture in our mind of who this might, who comes to mind when you hear something like this. Notice, please, though, that in regards to those who abuse you, Jesus says, pray for them. He does not say, go and try to be good buddies with them. Pray for them. Keep your distance. Amen. We're not telling anybody here to put themselves in harm's way. I don't believe that Jesus was teaching us to place ourselves at the hands of an enemy or an abuser. As I reflected on this gospel passage all week, the chorus of the song I mentioned kept rolling around in my head. What really is the love that Jesus wants us to know and to practice? So one morning I went out with my dogs, as I do every morning, and while they did their morning business, which is hysterical because the minute my lab mix Daisy goes out, she doesn't just walk outside and do her thing. She pounces, she gallops because she's so happy to be able to chase whatever's moving. And as I stood there and I noticed the cool, crisp air coming through, my breath, with little, looked like smoke signals coming out of my mouth, it seemed that I was really sort of witnessing the unconditional love of God. I mean, here we are, all of us created by this divine love for the sole reason to love and be loved, and to spread that love wherever we go. And yet, how many skirmishes, hatred, scapegoating, and outright wars have human beings perpetrated on each other? How often have our egos taken credit for things that, frankly, only a loving, diverse, creative energy can give? And I realized as I looked at the beauty of the earth, just from my itty-bitty little backyard, that's what God's unconditional love is. In the gospel passage, Jesus says, if you love those who love you, what credit is that to you? For even sinners love those who love them. And the thought came to me, without the fundamentalist abusive theology that normally goes with it, Jesus was revealing something more than just a difficult teaching. He was once again revealing what the love of God is like for us. It's an eternal love that pours itself out continually in spite of the fact that in many, most cases, it's not reciprocated by human beings. Think about that for a moment. This is the response to any religious fundamentalist that still has this quid pro quo idea that God will love you if, in some way, that there's some kind of transaction going on, rather than a pure gift, freely given. Even if you ignore it, even if you abuse it or take credit for it or even actively work against it. You want to know what true love is? That's it. It's God's unconditional love for us. That is the very reality we live and move and have our being in, regardless of whether or not it is reciprocated back to God or anybody else for that matter. As my thoughts of my time in ministry, as we're having this annual meeting after church today, I've been reviewing the last year, which is why I like to always make the collage of the pictures of things we've done together. As I reviewed the past year and my call to the priesthood, and here specifically at St. Catherine's, I was reminded of the paradox of our life. That though some of us are called to the ordained life in a church, all of us are called to the ministry of love in a very, very weary world. And sometimes even a very abusive and abused world. We are all called to remind one another that in spite of all the free-floating anger, even rage, prejudice, and outright hatred in the world, there is a loving God who continues to love us and particularly to work through us in spite of ourselves. How many times have we been outdoors, seen the beauty of the earth, and paid it absolutely no mind whatsoever, like we deserve it? like of course we would have that. No, pure gift, pure gift. How many people, I then thought, are soaked in tears at this very moment, wondering if anybody in the world would even give a damn whether they lived or died. They're out there, my friends. Somewhere out there in the world, and more than I wish was possible, a beautiful, beloved child of God is debating on ending their one wild and precious life, as the poet Mary Oliver would say, because they feel like they don't really fit in society anywhere. That's our mutual calling. It's really not that difficult, frankly. Sometimes it can be a little hard with some people, but our calling is really quite simple. This is what I think Jesus was trying to teach us, albeit using a little hyperbole. It's not that Jesus is saying, be a masochist and love people who want you dead. It's about a call to love in a way that isn't a transaction. It isn't, I'll give you this if you give me that. Our mutual calling is to spread the news that we are all loved for love, even, and particularly if the society at large does not affirm that. And there are way, way too many people that the society does not affirm. We all know that resentment is like drinking poison and waiting for the other person to die. You may hate injustice all you want, but the challenge is to continue to grow, expand, and evolve in love, even while we don't receive love, fairness, respect, or even equality from others. We were made by love to love and be loved. It's that simple. Whether or not you know it, we were all made to put out love energy into this weary world, to combat on a spiritual and a cosmic level the hatred and injustice in this world. So let me be clear, we are not called to be abused either by ourselves. Hello, I've done that. not accepting myself from time to time, cringing when I make my mistakes that every human being makes. And we're also not called to accept abuse from others. We are simply called to be a beacon of light, a sign of unconditional love in a very weary world. That's all. It's so simple, but it means so much to people out there, And that transformation can only happen if we nurture that call in tangible ways. All it takes is a little time each day to nurture this call. I mean, this is what being a Christian is all about. It's really not about memorizing doctrines. It's about just be love in a world that is bereft of love because it doesn't see it or experience it. It's a really simple calling. We need to be that beacon of light in somebody's life, and we may not even know it. And most times we probably won't know it. So we do this self-evolvement thing. We practice loving ourselves. I know that sounds so corny. I feel like the Saturday Night Live church lady, Well, isn't that special? I had a donut for breakfast. It's not good. The sugar is coursing through my veins. Thank you, Matthew. We're called to practice loving ourselves, accepting ourselves, even when we make mistakes. Hello, come on. We're all going to make mistakes. It's all right. And then to practice loving God in whatever way you can do that. It's not about, loving my friend Harvey, the invisible bunny. It's about, sitting still in silence and offering your love and knowing in your head that you're also receiving it. When we have this new meditation group on Tuesday noon, and one of the mantras that I give to people, phrase that you can repeat when your mind just goes, wah, when you're trying to get silent, is I love you. Because in saying I love you, I really believe God is saying it right back at you. I can see God saying back at you, I love you. Now accept my love. I don't know why that's so hard. We listen more to the society out there than we do our Maker. It's a lifelong practice. Some days I'm good about not beating myself up when I screw things up, and other days I am just all over my butt. Oh, I'm sorry. Well, some days I am relentless about punishing myself for making a mistake. And same thing with practicing love with other people. Sometimes I'm much better at it than others. This is what's so much more important. How did we get off the track so badly in religion to think that what was most important was to make people think the way we think, rather than make people understand that they're loved, and that love is really the only way this planet is going to thrive? It's so much more important than demanding that people believe exactly what we believe. So in a way, our calling is kind of like practicing spiritual Tai Chi. It's that ancient martial art which aims to concentrate and balance the body's vital energy, that is referred to as Qi. And our calling is to practice not like maybe Kung Fu, where you're fighting off someone or something, but rather to focus on and spread, as St. Paul said in his letter to the church in Philippi, whatever is true, whatever is noble, whatever is right, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is admirable, If anything is excellent or praiseworthy, think about these things. And I'm not advocating being this sort of dissociative way of being, but rather that we continue to move our energy towards what is life affirming. So not kung fu, but Tai Chi, to move the energy of hatred and anger and injustice away and focusing on you are loved, you are loved, you are loved. Turn to your neighbor and say, you are loved. You are loved, loved. Yeah. Kept thinking crouching tiger, hidden whatever, dragon, you know. But that's what we're doing. We're doing that in Tai Chi. We're moving energy around. We're not fighting the energy head on. Why do that? They get off on energy, right? Those folks. We're moving around the energy of justice and hatred, and we're bringing to it love. Because why waste energy with all that hatred that's coming at us all the time? But rather to just let the energy of divine love flow through us and out to whomever is receptive, you know? So important, so important. Don't return hatred for hatred, as Mahatma Gandhi said, an eye for an eye only leaves the whole world blind. Rather focus on growing in love and mercy and forgiveness, whether it's returned or not, but also practicing to receive this love. So this week, I want you to remember Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. I want you to release your dragon of love. And rather than feeling like you have to keep fighting all the time, the darkness, the injustice, the hatred in the world, you think of those Tai Chi masters. You just move around it. You just still love. And you do whatever it takes to nurture that love energy in yourself. I think that's the way of Christ. It's so simple. Not always easy. But that's what we're called to as a church and as people in the world. Amen.